it is an institution. It's a part of the constitution, and it's also a family. And as you referred to, there have been plenty of
Sure.
family dramas. We'll come to Harry and Meghan in a minute, but of course there's
If we
Prince
must.
Andrew. Yeah, well, we couldn't possibly we couldn't do a royal review without mentioning it, and we will talk about that. But Prince Andrew, first of all, he, if anything, has been cast even further into the wilderness.
He certainly has. I mean, we have to say right at the outset, he still continues, and he's perfectly right to do so, to deny all these allegations that were made against him with it through his links with Jeffrey Epstein and the lady Virginia Giuffre, who made various allegations of sexual impropriety towards her by him. And as I say, he denies that strenuously. But the big question that's never been answered is quite simply, Andrew, if you claim, as you have claimed all along, that you had no recollection of ever knowing this woman, then why did you pay upwards of £12 million to shut her up? It just doesn't gel at all. And obviously there's an awful lot still going on, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. There must be something to it. And that is going to haunt him now for the rest of his life. Forget about the hero pilot in the Falklands. Forget about some of the good things that he's done with his charities and everything else. This is the key thing that unfortunately he will be remembered for. Now, he is in a wilderness, and I was surprised to see him actually at the church service, walking along with the other members of the royal. I say walking along with other members of the royal. He was right at the back of it all, but he was there the first time he's done that since these allegations were revealed. So he was sort of back in public for a very short time. But the fact that these allegations are still there, I cannot see him ever being a working member of the royal family again. I mean, he's lost all his patronages. He's lost his police protection, his gun guards. And he's been kicked out of his office from Buckingham Palace. Why he would still need to have an office in Buckingham Palace, who knows? But his life is, his official life is over.
Yeah, I mean, there were, as you say, those glimpses of him skulking at the back at the church over Christmas, with the family as they arrived at church over Christmas. But we were hearing suggestions that he had perhaps wanted to try to find some form of royal role to come back as that. But clearly, the King Charles, has said absolutely not. You do just feel that the only options that left for him would be to try and somehow stay out of the limelight, maybe do some charity work, and hope that, goodness me, years down the line, people might find some way of perhaps allowing him to perform a little something publicly.
Well, if you remember, Carol, at the settlement of this money going to this Virginia Giuffre, he issued a statement in which he said he wanted to work with charities which fought against the trafficking of sex trafficking of women. Now, that's not come to pass. I can't think of one charity particularly involved in, fighting the sex trafficking of women who would want him as a figurehead. All his charities deserted him, like a hot potato. They can't have him at the head as a patron of a charity. So he's left very much to his own devices. And I think you're probably right. I mean, some of our older listeners may remember John Profumo, who was involved in the Profumo scandal in the 60s when the government was brought down through the Christine Keeler situation. And he went on to do charitable works behind the scenes, not publicized. And there was a small way back for him, but never back to the heady heights of being a government minister that he was. And I'm afraid if Andrew... I mean, I'm being told that all he does is he goes out riding at Windsor Great Park, sits on a sofa, watches a bit of television, and that's about it. But surely he could do something that would, give him a purpose in life. Certainly not a royal role.
No, it certainly seems very clear indeed that King Charles, has no intention whatsoever of allowing him any form of public role as he tries to reshape the monarchy. The other huge ongoing headache that he faces, of course, is Meghan and Harry,
Yeah.
the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. I'm sure, Charles, that like me, you may well have watched 6 hours of their
Yeah.
so-called documentary, and it did include a lot of accusations about the way they were treated by other members of the royal household.
It did. I mean, the two main accusations that came out, well, there was three. There was also the racism matter, and I'm not trying to sort of suggest that that wasn't important. It was, of course, it was. But the accusation was that Prince William shouted and screamed at him at this famous Sandringham summit, and also that his father, as he described it, has told untruths. That's just another nice way of saying his father was lying about events. Now, the king himself is caught in between a rock and a hard place. He is the monarch, and so he is the figurehead, not just of the royal family, but of the country. But he's also a dad, and dads and mums as well tend to forgive their offspring all sorts of things, and I'm afraid Charles is caught in the same problem, that his son is making various accusations and he still loves him. And I'm sure he does still love him. But, Meghan herself, her entry into the royal family was probably the easiest of any of the royal women who've entered the royal family in recent years. Diana, Fergie, and she was helped along the way. She was even, the Queen even said to her, if you want to carry on being an actress, you go right ahead. She offered to lend her Sophie Wessex to help her, work through the protocols of life. Ignored. She was offered all sorts of help, completely ignored. And so they decided they wanted to go their own way.
And when you think back to the huge excitement that there was at the time of her wedding to Harry, and there are some wonderful reminders of it in that documentary, but when you watch it, it is very clear that both Harry and Meghan do feel that they've been hounded by the media. They do think that some of the headlines that they've got have been fueled by other members of the royal family. And it does seem as though this rift, which perhaps there might have been a few glimmers that the family could find a way to heal when Harry came over after the death of the late Queen. But that all seems to have completely evaporated now. Clearly, no mention of them in King Charles's Christmas broadcast, which we'll come to in a minute, and no sign of any rapprochement between the two brothers.
No, we were hoping at one stage that there was going to be some sort of rapprochement between William and Harry. They were at one time the greatest double act that we had in this country, apart from Ant and Dec. I mean, they got on very, very well, and it's very sad to see the rift between the two brothers. But I have to say that I think Harry has, as the late Queen once said, recollections may vary, and I think his recollections certainly differ from all sorts of other things that happen. You look, this lady Meghan came into this royal family as an American actress divorcee of mixed race. Now, there wasn't one person in this country, and certainly in the media, who made any criticism of that. She was welcomed with open arms, as you quite rightly just said. You just had to remember the walkabouts that they had, say, in Nottingham, and I think in Liverpool that they went up to. Thousands of people lined the streets. It was like being back to the good old Diana days. They were taken to people's hearts. And I think what went wrong is that Meghan herself thought that she was bigger than the royal family. And by that, I mean, there is a pecking order in the royal family. There is the monarch, there is the then Prince of Wales, then there is Harry and Meghan. And so the rules are, the unwritten rules are, you don't do things that upset one of the other royals. When I say upset, I mean make an announcement or do something that an official job that's going on. And they just thought that they were the stars of the whole show. And it's a great pity that they have left, because they were going to be a cornerstone of the slimmed down royal family. And we've seen Edward and Sophie have stepped into the breach to fill that role in this cut down, slimmed down royal family.